watching Al Jazeera live from Doha. I'm Mariam Namazi. These are live pictures that we're bringing you from the Al-Aqsa Hospital in central Gaza, where there is quite a bit of chaos there. We're continuing coverage of what is happening there. Of course, Israel's assault on the Strip has continued. We have seen attacks in refugee camps, Al-Balah, Maghazi and Nusayrat, but then we have also seen civilians who have been killed in these attacks, and there is quite a bit of chaos at the Al-Aqsa Hospital now in central Gaza. Now remember that this is one of the few functioning hospitals in the Strip because Gaza's health system has been pretty much decimated by this war. It's actually, they've issued a number of urgent warnings about their inability to operate, about the fact that they might completely break down. They need thousands of liters of fuel to be able to operate. So not only do they have a shortage of supplies going into the Strip because the land crossings have been closed, that is suffocating the area. They don't have enough medicines going in to be able to treat the patients. But fuel is also the critical thing, and that has prevented the hospital from functioning, not just from dealing with casualties, not just from dealing with, dozens, in some cases hundreds of wounded patients from these attacks, but also in treating patients who have chronic illnesses, patients that might require kidney treatment or dialysis. And so there has been a sense of chaos at the Al-Aqsa Hospital there, where staff, medical workers are struggling to treat patients. Many of them, we've seen images of patients who are lying on the floor waiting for hours to receive treatment because this hospital is simply over capacity. But it is 3 times over capacity, they've said, but it is one of the few functioning facilities left in Gaza as we see an intensification of attacks in the southernmost city of Gaza, in Rafah. There's also been continuing activity, airstrikes, shelling in northern Gaza. But one thing we have seen over the past few days is a sharp rise in the number of attacks on refugee camps for displaced people. And we've been focusing particularly on Al-Balah, Maghazi and Nusayrat. Let's speak to Hind Khoudary. She has been following developments in Gaza very closely for us. Now, Hind, you are in Deir el-Balah. What can you tell us about what is happening there and the strikes in central Gaza?
Okay, so I'm currently in Al-Aqsa Hospital where injuries did not stop coming inside the hospital from different areas. We're talking about areas like el-Balah, Nusayrat refugee camp, Al-Balah and Maghazi, where this area has been under intense bombardment since the early hours of the morning. We're talking about artillery shelling, we're talking about airstrikes, and we're also talking about live ammunition from the warships. We saw a couple of targets surrounding the Al-Aqsa Hospital. There was a massive airstrike on one of the houses very close to the Al-Aqsa Hospital where we are right now, and we're trapped and we can't leave because it's very dangerous. The ambulances did not stop transferring injuries, and not only ambulances, we're talking about people, donkey cars, anyone trying to help as much as possible. I talked to a lot of injuries, some from the Nusayrat camp, and they said that they woke up on intense artillery shelling where the shells fell on their houses and they got injured. And it was a miracle how they evacuated and got out of their houses because the Israeli tanks are stationed on Al-Salah Road. It's still intensifying. We can still hear artillery shelling in the background, and the hospitals are overwhelmed. You can't imagine. The people are on the floor. Medics, volunteers, everyone is trying to help them. There's no place for them. They're even trying to put more injuries in other departments in the hospital. The doctors are trying their best to rescue as much people as possible, but there are a lot of severe critical injuries right now, and everyone is terrified. People are terrified. They think there's another attack on Al-Aqsa Hospital. We're talking about an area that has been having hundreds of thousands of Palestinians displaced, that evacuated from Rafah in the past couple of weeks. and came here because the Israeli forces told them that the middle area is a designated safe area. People came to this area fearing airstrikes, but again, there's no safe place in Gaza, and people are now homeless, terrified, horrified, fearing another wave of violence and airstrikes, and they don't know where to hide or where to go.
It is a desperate situation, Hind, and I can hear, I can get a sense of what is happening there just from the kind of sound of your voice. So I hope that you are in a place where you are able to report. Obviously, as you say, there is no safe place in Gaza because of what is happening there. And also we see on our screens just there in the box, you can see pictures of smoke billowing into the air. This is from Al-Nusayrat. I believe we are looking at images of Al-Nusayrat. This is in the northern part of Gaza. Of course, we have seen attacks that have damaged homes, that have reduced infrastructure, residential buildings, civilian infrastructure, residential buildings and hospitals to rubble. We know that the war has displaced most of the territory's population. I mean, 85, 90%, most of the territory's population have been displaced because of shortages of food, clean water and medicine. But of course, it doesn't seem to matter where people go. They will still face those shortages and they will face continuing attacks. And so from Hind, just to be absolutely clear about what is happening right now and what has been playing out in the last few minutes, we have seen residential buildings in these latest strikes targeted. Gunships are bombing the area near the fishing port. And then also Israeli forces are targeting areas around Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir el-Balah, which has been coming under massive amounts of strain in recent days and weeks. Is the hospital still able to function in some way?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes, tell me.
I lost you.
Yes, Hind, tell me, I don't know if you are getting any information about the Al-Aqsa Hospital. Israeli forces have been targeting areas around the Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir el-Balah. Do you have any information about whether the building itself has been targeted or just the area around it?
Well, there's a house that was targeted close to Al-Aqsa Hospital, and we're talking about sidewalks, streets, tents surrounding the place where people were displaced to that area. So it's not only targeting a house near the hospital, it's targeting displaced Palestinians that thought that the middle area was safe. But also one of the journalists received a call from the Israeli army telling them that they will target tents inside Al-Aqsa Hospital. And that's why everyone's horrified. We're talking about a place. Al-Aqsa Hospital is not only a hospital, it's also a refuge and a shelter for hundreds of thousands of Palestinians that seek refuge in this hospital for months right now. And now they got this warning from one of the journalists who received a call from the Israeli army telling them that they were going to target a couple of tents in the courtyard of the hospital. We're seeing people running. We're seeing people looking for a safe place. Everyone is left the hospital to the areas surrounding the hospital. And people are literally can't find any place safe. They do not know where to go. They're searching for a place. They're trying to move west, but again, there are helicopters, there are quadcopters. People are fearing live ammunition. They're fearing artillery shelling, and it's also not safe for them to evacuate from outside the hospital. This is the scene right now, and no one can understand anything because it's escalating. It started escalating in 1 hour. All we heard is ambulances and just explosions, people crying, children crying, mothers looking for their children. That's the scene right now.
And I want to make it absolutely clear what is happening right now. Obviously, we can see some pictures from the Al-Aqsa Hospital and then also some other pictures from Deir el-Balah. But what we are talking about in recent days and weeks is a significant escalation, a clear surge in Israeli attacks on areas that have been classified by the Israelis as safe zones. So, in other words, we are seeing an increasing number of attacks in many parts of Gaza, particularly the central areas, Burej, Maghazi refugee camps, and Deir el-Balah. And these are areas that have been classified as safe zones. So in other words, the Israelis have said that if there is an escalation or a rise in attacks in one part of Gaza, if people move to a different area, that they will be safe. But as Hind is explaining there, we are seeing artillery shelling, we are seeing airstrikes, and we are seeing live ammunition being fired into areas where you have thousands, in some cases hundreds of thousands of civilians who are taking shelter because they've been displaced from their homes.
Yes, we're talking about more than 1 million Palestinians that evacuated from Rafah, the western parts of Rafah, in the past couple of weeks. All of these people were squeezed into the middle area because there was no other place for them to go. The hospital was one of the places that had a lot of Palestinians displaced, and more displaced Palestinians came into the hospital. We're talking about the sidewalks, we're talking about the coast, about the agricultural areas, we're talking about schools, we're talking about every inch of the middle area and Deir el-Balah. Area was supposed to be safe. People came from all the way from Rafah, came here. They thought this area was going to be away from the military, Israeli military incursion, the Israeli operation, but here you go. You can't imagine the amount of injuries. I saw children, women, girls, ladies, men. All of these were civilians in the Sayrat, in Deir el-Balah, where the Israeli artillery shelling targeted their houses when they were sleeping very early in the morning. Talking to the medical crews, they said that they had a lot of challenges and obstacles to go and to rescue these people because the Israeli tanks were everywhere, the quadcopters were everywhere, live ammunition was everywhere, but the medical crew said that they were unable to reach people till this point. The amount of explosions we heard since the morning was massive. Every single minute you'd hear a lot of explosions, either from artillery shelling, airstrikes, from the warships, from all the sides, from the south, from the west, from the north, from the east. And again, the middle area was supposed to be a designated area as a safe zone, a safe place. And here, Palestinians are horrified. They do not know where to go. And all I see is little children asking me, are they going to target us? Where should we hide? There's no place for us to go. And this is true. We are all trapped right now. We have to go. No one is safe. No place is safe. And to be honest, like everyone here is terrified. I'm talking to you right now. I'm in the entrance of the emergency in Al-Aqsa Hospital. More injuries are coming and being transferred into a hallway that is already overwhelmed with patients with injuries. Medics are horrified. They're trying to rescue as much people as possible. Some people have been killed and transferred to the morgue of the hospital right away. It's a very hard day for the people in Deir el-Balah and in the middle area, and we still do not know what is currently happening in Nusayrat, where there has been intensive airstrikes and artillery shelling in that area too.
Yes, it's very important to clarify that we see all corners of the Gaza Strip, all corners of Gaza that are being attacked right now. We have been speaking about a war we've been covering a war that has been going on for 8 months now. We have seen a surge in attacks with a focus on particular refugee camps in Gaza, Burej, Maghazi and Nusayrat, in recent days and weeks. But it seems as though over the past few days, there has been a clear surge in these attacks where you have civilians. And we're not just talking about civilian infrastructure or residential buildings, because a lot of that infrastructure has been reduced to rubble. We are speaking about refugee camps for displaced people. And so what we saw beginning at the start of this war was a focus on northern Gaza. And as you were explaining, Hind, many people were told to flee to the south. And so they made their way from northern Gaza into central parts of Gaza, heading into Khan Yunis in the south, and then even further, and then into the south in Rafah. And now, in recent weeks, we saw the Israelis escalating their operations, their attacks in Rafah. They said to root out Hamas fighters there. And so they were focusing on Rafah. This has also been accompanied by a closure of the land crossings. So while you have a war going on, you have people displaced, you have many people wounded, no one has access to any sort of treatment. They're unable to get treatment when they go to the hospitals. The hospitals can't treat them if they do get to the hospitals because they don't have the supplies to be able to deal with the patients because the land crossings are closed and because there is a siege of the Gaza Strip. And so with this escalation in activity in Rafah, we then have seen many thousands of Palestinians move into the central part of Gaza, and that's where we're at now, at the Al-Aqsa Hospital, where Israeli forces have launched air raids at the Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir el-Balah. We know that a number of people have been killed and wounded, and I'm just looking at some other reports here. Yes, some of the scenes that we've been monitoring show that those who have died in this attack include children who are being brought to the Al-Aqsa Hospital. And Hind, this is one of the few remaining hospitals that is not just a hospital, as you say. It is providing refuge and shelter to many Palestinians. So we can only imagine the kind of the sense of terror they feel when they see the area around the hospital itself being targeted by airstrikes. Do we have a rough idea about the number of people who might be in the hospital, not just in terms of staff and medical workers, but those who would be taking shelter?
Well, we have been trying to talk to the medics and asking them about how many people are inside the hospital. They say that there are at least they said approximately there's 8,000 people right now inside Al-Aqsa Hospital, only injured, and not only patients, but also the families of those injured because they do not have any place and they're seeking refuge inside there. We're talking about one of the only hospitals still functioning and still having kidney dialysis department, ICU department, still operates surgeries in Al-Aqsa Hospital, and they're having a couple of delegations from MAP UK, from MSF, and from other international organizations to help give medical treatment to all of the Palestinians that are in severe medical need and mental intervene. But there's a very important thing that for more than a month now, since the Rafah crossing closed and Israel started its military operation in Rafah, there has been no medicine that was transferred to Al-Aqsa Hospital. Medics are saying that they're running on supplies, and the amount of injuries that were received since the morning is massive. We're trying to talk to the medical teams. They said that most of the injuries that were transferred to hospital were children, were women, and we saw this, we witnessed this. But another thing that most of the injuries were also in critical injuries, where most of their lower limbs need amputation, and the hospital is over, and they could not help to rescue these injuries. We're all talking about the hospital is running out of anesthetic, where they're trying to do surgery. They're trying to help all of these injured without any painkiller or any anesthetic. How many people were killed, how many people were transferred to the hospital, and they said that they do not even have the ability to count from the huge amount, the number of killed and number of injured that were transferred to hospital area since the morning. I'm talking to you as more ambulances are coming into the hospital, more civilians are helping rescue the injured, and I tell you, the hospital is working 3 times the capacity, but unfortunately there is no medical supplies.
Yeah.
And most of the doctors here
Hind, thank you so much. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Hind, but there were just... the line is not very clear and it's breaking up a little bit. but we got a sense of what you were saying there. Some 8,000 people are inside the Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir el-Balah in central Gaza. Israeli forces have launched air raids in the area around the Al-Aqsa Hospital. As Hind was explaining to us, a number of people have been killed and wounded, but she was describing a massive influx of patients who have arrived at the hospital as a result of these recent Israeli strikes and attacks on Gaza. And Hind was saying that the patients include women and children. Women and children are among the casualties there. This is a hospital that is really one of the few, perhaps even the only hospital that is actually functioning inside Gaza. But it's not just a hospital that is there providing medical treatment. The building itself is also a shelter, is also housing many thousands of people, because it's not just the number of people who've been injured that are being brought in. The families of those who've been injured are also taking shelter. Displaced people are also taking shelter inside this hospital because they have nowhere else to go. And so that was Hind Khoudary reporting there from Gaza, and we will get back to her a little bit later on. Let's now speak to Imran Khan. Imran Khan is reporting to us from Amman in Jordan. The Israeli government said anything, Imran, about these attacks?
Well, what we're hearing from the Israeli army is a very short statement saying they're going after terrorist infrastructure in al-Nusayrat refugee camp. But that is a statement that's very difficult to square with the pictures that we're seeing of women and children being rushed to the hospital, of what the horrific reporting that Hind was describing there as well, our colleague in Gaza. Also, what we're hearing is from trusted Israeli military reporters. These are the people that the Israeli military trust. They give them information that this is a operation by air, land and sea. It's a far bigger operation than we've seen perhaps in recent weeks. But the Israeli military, as I say, issuing that very short statement saying they are going after terrorist infrastructure. Now, remember, just a week ago, they said that they'd hit terrorist infrastructure in Rafah, but actually some 45 people, civilians, were actually killed, and they call that the Rafah massacre. We don't know how many injured, how many people are dead arriving at the Al-Aqsa Hospital, but that number does seem to be rising throughout the day. And then just a few days ago, we had another attack where the Israelis said they targeted key Hamas leaders. Well, Hamas actually turned around and said, well, the names you've given out actually aren't Hamas leaders at all. In fact, one of them doesn't even live in Gaza. So once again, we've got this situation where the Israelis issue a statement saying they're going after terrorist infrastructure, but the pictures that we see live on our air suggest that it's civilians once again caught in the middle.
Yes, this, as you say, Imran, this is something that has been continuing, a sort of cycle where Israelis maybe don't issue these statements regularly. You were saying that it's unusual, but in this case, they've said that they are targeting infrastructure in Gaza's Nusayrat area. And, you know, Imran, we have seen a clear focus by the Israelis on areas that they themselves designated safe zones. You know, this includes the largest refugee camp in Gaza, but also some of the smaller ones, Burej and Maghazi. But, you know, with the displacement crisis in Gaza now, Hind was saying 1 million people have been displaced, probably even more, because, you know, they've had to move from place to place multiple times. These refugee camps will have swelled to numbers that are very difficult for us to document, but they've also been a clear focus on these refugee camps for displaced people in recent days, haven't there?
Well, let's just get one thing absolutely clear about this. I mean, we keep saying this. Hind just said it. There are no safe places in Gaza. However, the Israelis keep talking about safe zones because that's one of the things that the Americans have put pressure on them to do. If we just rewind back to the very beginning of this war, there were supposed to be a number of areas that weren't going to be hit. The Israelis issued a map. They divided the areas into little squares and said, if you go to that square, you're going to be safe. That map has gone completely out of the window. Now nowhere is safe in Gaza for any of these refugees. A million of them at least, as you just pointed out there, could well be more. But this is a PR exercise for the Israelis. And the Israelis have almost admitted this. They keep saying that we have these safe zones. These safe zones are there for the Palestinians to go to, but they can change at the blink of an eye. That's not the exact words that they use, but that's what we're seeing in effect. So the idea of safe zones is very much a public diplomacy exercise from the Israelis, and it comes from American pressure.
Thank you very much, Imran. Appreciate it. Imran Khan reporting to us from Amman in Jordan. And just a reminder that the reason we are there in Jordan is because the cabinet of the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has banned Al Jazeera from reporting inside Israel itself.